You're listening to the Broken Havoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications.
What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here, right here on the Broken Havoc podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite from March 30th, 2022. Overall thoughts on this show. I thought this was a fantastic episode of Dynamite. The matches that we saw on the show were absolutely insane. Of course, we had CM Punk versus Max Caster in the opening match. We had Jon Moxley taking on Jay Lethal in a match that I thought was by far the best match of the entire night. Bryan Danielson versus Wheeler Yuta. That match was a complete technical masterpiece. We, of course, had the main event with Andrade El Idolo versus Darby Allin in the main event, in which Darby Allin goes over in the match. Of course, CM Punk is eyeing towards the World Championship and is targeting Hangman Adam Page. Well, maybe at Hangman Adam Page. Of course, right now, Adam Page is feuding with Adam Cole still, and the Undisputed Elite, that is the new faction of the Undisputed Era in AEW. The Undisputed Elite have a championship celebration in which, of course, Adam Cole stole he stole the world title and the World Tag Team Championships and gave them to Red Dragon, and they had a World Championship celebration. And I will say this, those belts look damn good on the Undisputed Elite. But we got a lot of things to talk about on this AEW Dynamite review. Of course, this week is a big week in professional wrestling. Of course, this weekend, we're on the verge of WrestleMania 38. I will be coming to you guys with my WrestleMania 38 predictions tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that video. But before I get on with all the amazingness that was AEW Dynamite, make sure to like and subscribe to the Broken Havoc podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the Broken Havoc podcast is now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen to the podcast in audio format, they're available on all of those platforms as listed below. All right, let's get on with AEW Dynamite. The show kicks off with CM Punk taking on Max Caster. Overall thoughts on this opening match. Of course, CM Punk last week made his return ever since his amazing dog collar match with MJF at AEW's Revolution pay-per-view. That match was absolutely amazing. I enjoyed what I saw in that match. And of course, watching that match in the theater, which, by the way, I'm not going to watch a wrestling pay-per-view inside of a movie theater again. I talked about that in my Revolution review. If you guys haven't checked that out. Of course, that the reaction with CM Punk and MJF in the dog collar match was absolutely insane. I absolutely loved that match for what it was. But of course, CM Punk last week had a fantastic opening match against FTR's Dax Harwood. And after the match, after CM Punk won the match, he went up to the top rope and literally did the gesture pointing at the World Championship, which I believe I did not mention last week. So shame on me for not pointing that out. I completely missed that part of the entire match, or I should say after the match, I completely missed him doing the gesture, so I completely missed that. So my apologies if I didn't mention it on my Dynamite review last week, but he did that gesture last week, and CM Punk is definitely targeting for the World Championship, and the rumored match for Double or Nothing is most likely going to be Hangman Page taking on CM Punk, which I actually thought it was going to be MJF versus CM Punk, but I feel like they're going to wait on that since CM Punk right now is on the verge of going for the World Championship, but I'll talk about that later on. Of course, Max Caster comes out of the ring and does a typical rap in which CM Punk was smiling when he was doing the fucking rap. It was hilarious. But the match starts. Both lock up. We get a wrist lock by Punk. Both lock up again. Caster goes for the knee. Caster is in control. Punk then gains control and tries to go for the Anaconda Vice, but Max Caster escapes. We get a kick by Caster, and we get a wrist lock by Max Caster. Punk goes for a side headlock. We get a shoulder tackle by Punk. Then we get a cover by CM Punk and an immediate kick out by Max Caster. Caster then catches Punk and hits a rib breaker. I think that's what it's called. We get a cover by Caster and a near fall. Then Caster sends Punk into the corner. Later on, Punk goes to the top. He proceeds to hit a lariat from the top on Max Caster after that. Then he hits a snap suplex. At this point, Punk is selling his back. Punk goes for a hammer throw. He misses a running knee strike. Caster then wants to pick up Punk, but then CM Punk escapes. Punk wants to go for the GTS, the go to sleep, but Caster escapes. Caster hits the Fisherman Buster. We get a cover by Caster and a near fall. Caster then goes to the top, but Punk comes in. We get a chop by Punk after that. Then he hits a Hurricane Rana. We get a running knee by Punk. We get a cover and a near fall. Punk is on the top rope. Caster then takes him down. Then Caster goes to the top. He misses the mic drop, and then Punk takes Caster for the pile driver attempt, but then Punk then applies the Anaconda Vice submission. Caster taps out, and CM Punk wins the match. Overall, this was a pretty good opening match. What I say was a better match than the match that Punk had with Dax Harwood last week. No, I would say if you were to give me CM Punk versus Dax Harwood or CM Punk versus Max Caster, I would have chosen the Dax Harwood match, to be quite honest with you. But this wasn't a bad match whatsoever. I enjoyed the match for what it was. But really, the story of this match was not what happened in the ring. It's actually what happened after the entire match. Of course, Tony Schiavone comes in the ring and interviews CM Punk after that. He asks Punk what that gesture was last week. It was pretty obvious on what that gesture was last week. Punk asks the crowd what that meant. It says that he doesn't know who the champion is going to be, whether it's going to be Adam Page or Adam Cole. He says it's either going to be Adam Cole and he will looking down the barrel, or he will be looking down the barrel of cowboy shit. Before his time in AEW is over, there will be a lot more scars. And the last thing he knows is that he will be world's champion. So CM Punk is targeting the World Championship, and you know what? I'm all in for it. You know, I think right now is the time for CM Punk to win the World Championship. I actually been enjoying his AEW run. A lot of people have. You know, there's a lot of critics out there that thinking that they're not really enjoying CM Punk's not title run, but his run in AEW thus far. I'm actually enjoying it for what it was because we're getting a lot of matches that we would have just dreamed up a couple of years ago. We got MJF versus CM Punk, and we're definitely going to be getting that match in the near future later on down the road this year for the World Championship. So what does this mean for the World Championship? Of course, a couple of Dynamite reviews ago, I stated that MJF is slated, in my opinion, he's going to be the guy to beat Hangman Adam Page for the World Championship. And it looks like that's not going to be the case. It's going to be Punk taking the belt from Hangman Page. And you know what? I'm all in for that. Mainly because of the fact that, to me, it's a win-win situation because at the end of the day, you're still going to come down to MJF versus CM Punk for the World Championship. Because, of course, if CM Punk wins the world title, we immediately know who CM Punk is going to drop the title to. He's going to drop the title to MJF. 100%. And you know what? I'm all in for that, mainly because this is just setting the tone for MJF winning the world title. Punk is probably going to win the World Championship at Double or Nothing, and is probably going to drop it either in Chicago, which I doubt it, but could you imagine if MJF took the title from CM Punk in his hometown of Chicago? That'd be legit heel heat right there, and literally garbage will be thrown all over the ring or at Full Gear. We'll have to wait and see, but again, right now, CM Punk is slated for, I don't want to say it's slated because the match is not official yet, but CM Punk is eyeing towards the World Championship, and of course, right now, Hangman Adam Page is currently feuding with Adam Cole, which most likely Adam Page is going to prevail in that entire feud. I don't see Adam Cole winning the world title now, mainly because of the fact that we're all waiting for Kenny Omega to come back. Honestly, we do not know when Kenny Omega is going to come back, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, man, CM Punk is targeting the world title, but let's be honest, you love to see it. All right. Flyers are all around the ring and the arena, banning Wardlow from the building. All right. Alex Marvez interviews MJF and FTR. And MJF talks about how the Pinnacle exists and says that FTR will face the Ass Boys, of course, that being the Gun Club, Austin and Colton Gunn. Then after that, they said that they got Sean Spears versus, who was it, Sean Dean? I don't even remember what the hell he said. But then FTR says that Wardlow is his friend, and then they don't want to be in the middle of this whole shenanigans right here. And then MJF says when you're in the Pinnacle, you're always on top. But FTR, Dex Harwood, and Cash Wheeler have that weird look on their face saying like, bro, I don't want to be a part of your bullshit. And then FTR looked like they're questioning MJF tactics, but they still go to MJF and do the whole Pinnacle, you're always on top thing. And then after that, we got Jon Moxley versus Jay Lethal. So I'm going to be talking about FTR. Of course, FTR, Of course, right now they're going to be they're slated to face the Briscoes tomorrow night at Ring of Honor's first show under the AEW umbrella, that being Supercard of Honor, which I will be purchasing the pay-per-view. Actually, still didn't purchase the pay-per-view. I have to purchase it so I can watch it. I don't even know how I'm going to watch it, mainly because of the fact that I'm most likely going to be watching SmackDown and Rampage, and probably the Hall of Fame for Undertaker's speech, and also Scott Steiner getting a live microphone on WWE television. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, FTR, it looks like they're turning babyface right here, and later on throughout the show, it really showed that. And what does this mean for the Pinnacle? Now, I remember last year with my Dynamite reviews, I've stated that, you know, once MJF wins the World Championship, the Pinnacle is going to win all the titles, kind of like the Horsemen did the Four Horsemen did back in the 80s, in which, you know, MJF would have the World Championship, FTR would have the World Tag Team Championships, you know, Shawn Spears would have the TNT Championship, and Wardlow, but of course right now that's not going to be the case, mainly because of the fact that Wardlow is kicked out of the Pinnacle, would have the FTW Championship. Somebody, I don't credit me for that, like somebody came up with that on Twitter, and I saw, like, that'd be pretty awesome if Wardlow won the FTW Championship. But yeah, I mean, like, overall, I mean, I don't think it's going to be the case anymore. I feel like MJF is going to go on his own, mainly because of the fact that FTR is looking at a babyface title run. Not only that, later on in the show they did challenge the Young Bucks for a second match, which I'll talk about that later on, but I'm definitely excited to see where that goes. But in our next match of the evening, we got an awesome ass match. We got Jon Moxley versus Jay Lethal. Overall, of course, the Jon Moxley, first off, is part of the Blackpool Combat Club, which is such a badass name. I got to get me a shirt that says that. Of course, it's available on shopaew.com. But overall, this was a great match. I absolutely loved the chemistry that both Jay Lethal and Jon Moxley had. I loved all the near falls near the end of the entire match. This match was awesome. I absolutely enjoyed what I watched, and the crowd was up on their feet. Like, Jay Lethal is amazing at what he does. Of course, Jon Moxley needs no introduction. Jon Moxley knows what the fuck he is doing in the ring. And not only that, man, the match he had with Jay Lethal, top notch, really good ass match. And of course, Bryan Danielson later on had a fantastic match with Wheeler Yuta, which I'll talk about that later on, because that match was arguably my favorite match of the entire night. But we got a waist lock and a wrist lock by Lethal. There's a lot of technical wrestling in the beginning of the match. Jay goes to the outside. Both get back in the ring. Both lock up. We got a side headlock takeover by Moxley. We got a second side headlock takeover on Lethal by Moxley. Lethal goes for a takedown. Lethal then wants to go for the figure four, but Moxley escapes. Both are on the outside. Moxley dares Lethal to take a shot, and then both exchange shots. We get a chop by Moxley. We get a kick by Lethal. We get a shoulder tackle by Moxley. Moxley then hits a German suplex. Lethal is in the corner. We get a clothesline by Moxley. We get repeated rights by Moxley. Moxley goes to the top. Lethal fights back. He pushes Moxley in the middle of the top rope, landing Moxley to the outside. Lethal then runs into a suicide dive on Moxley onto the outside portion of the ring. Once we go to commercial break, Lethal is in control. Once we're back from commercial break, we get a chop by Moxley. We get a couple of chops and kicks by Lethal. We get a double crossbody, taking both Moxley and Lethal down to the mat. Both exchange forearms after that. Lethal goes for a couple of chops. Lethal then runs into a devastating lariat after that. Moxley goes for a pile driver attempt, but then Lethal picks up Moxley, but Moxley escapes. So we got counter after counter after counter during this portion of the entire match. Lethal then goes for a combination of strikes, planting Moxley to the mat. Then we get a cover and a near fall. Then Moxley is in the center of the ring. Lethal goes to the top, but then Lethal goes down. We get a rolling elbow by Moxley. He wants to go for the paradigm shift, but his knee gave out, so Moxley at this point is selling his knee. Then Lethal tries to go for the lethal injection, but Moxley counters into a choke, so he gets caught into the choke. That was actually a pretty awesome moment in the match. I absolutely enjoyed that moment in the match. We get a roll-up attempt by Lethal, but we get a near fall, and then Lethal goes for an enziguri. Lethal then goes for a brainbuster. Lethal goes to the top, and then he hits an amazing ass elbow drop, and then we get a cover. And I swear to God, while the referee was counting, I could have sworn the referee hit for the 3 count, because that was a definition of a pure, like, close ass near fall right there. But then after that, Lethal argues with the referee, and then we get "This is awesome" chants by the crowd. At this point, you can tell that the crowd was absolutely, like, just eating this shit up. Like, they absolutely enjoyed what they saw in this match. Lethal then wants to apply the figure 4 leg lock, but then Moxley goes for a roll up, but we get a near fall. Moxley at this point hits the paradigm shift, and we get a cover by Moxley 1, 2, 3, and wins the match. Then after that, Moxley offers a handshake, and both shake hands. What are my thoughts on this match? Again, this is a fantastic match, and it only gets better later on down when it comes to Bryan Danielson and Wheeler Yuta, which I definitely do see Wheeler Yuta joining the Blackpool Combat Club, mainly because of the fact that Wheeler Yuta just took a crazy ass beating by Bryan Danielson, and the guy just just stood up his ground. But again, Lethal was absolutely fantastic. There are portions of this match in which I thought that Jay Lethal was actually going to get the win, but he did not. But I will say this, man. I mean, it was pretty logical that Jon Moxley was going to go over. It'd make no sense for Jon Moxley to lose. But still, I love the unpredictability nature of which in Lethal. I mean, even though you thought where you were like, yeah, Moxley's 100% going to win, you were like, I mean, like, you know, there's like a 5% chance that Lethal might win it, and it really showed. I mean, like, Lethal was taking it to Moxley, and I absolutely enjoyed that part of the match, and the crowd was absolutely eating the shit up. All right. FTR taking on the Gun Club, Austin and Colton Gunn, the Ass Boys. Overall, this was a great match. MJF comes out before the match, and MJF is on commentary, and he goes off on Wardlow. So Wardlow, of course, is banned from the building, and FTR is really kind of questioning, in a way, MJF's tactics. But FTR, one thing I'll mention about FTR, especially on this particular match, they had some badass NWO like attire. By the way, I'm putting over their ring attire for FTR, but FTR is one of my favorite tag teams. But the match starts. I will say this: throughout the entirety of the match, really, the Gun Club was really getting a lot of offense in this match. Like, they were literally taking it to FTR. And I will say that. But the match starts. Dax and Colton both lock up. Austin Gunn tags in, then both lock up. We get a takedown by Austin. He steps over Dax Harwood. Cash then tags in. He takes Austin down. Austin then goes for a right hand to the midsection in the corner. We get a couple of arm drags by Cash Wheeler, and then we get a drop kick by Cash. We get a chop on Colton Gunn, and then we get a double team by FTR. At this point, Dax Harwood is the legal man. Cash Wheeler then tags in. Cash goes for the axe handle. Both guns are on the outside. We get a chop by Cash on Austin. Colton then grabs the boot of Cash, but then Billy Gunn hits a right hand on Cash Wheeler when the referee was distracted. So once we go to commercial break, the Gun Club, they're all in control. Again, they had a lot of offense in the match, especially throughout the beginning. Like, literally, FTR was actually getting murdered by the Gun Club. But Cash goes for a side slam on Austin Gunn. Colton then tags in. Colton then works on Cash Wheeler in the corner. Then we get not a couple of drop kicks. We get one drop kick by Colton Gunn. We get a cover by Colton and a near fall. Then Colton takes out Dax Harwood, who is from the apron, but then Dax comes back and then he tags in. And then we get a couple of right hands by Dax Harwood. We get an uppercut and a couple of chops by Dax. Dax then goes for a leg lariat, and then he goes for a traditional lariat. And then we get a cover by Dax Harwood and a near fall. Austin then after that goes for a jawbreaker, but then wants to suplex Dax, but then Dax tries to suplex Austin. So Austin is in the apron and Dax is in the inside of the ring, and they both try to outdo one another, trying to suplex each other, but both did not suplex one another. But then Austin goes and drops on Dax. I believe it was Dax trying to make the suplex, but Austin counters and just plants and goes on top of Dax. I believe that's what happened. Correct me if I'm wrong. I missed that portion of the match. But then we get a cover engineer fall. At this point, the camera goes to Wardlow. Yes, Wardlow is in the arena and he takes out security. Wardlow then, security surrounds Wardlow. At this point, Dax Harwood is distracted. We get a roll up by Dax Harwood and a near fall. And then he faces off with Billy Gunn, who again tries to make the distraction. And then we get a back body drop. Cash takes out Billy Gunn. Then FTR goes for the big rig, and we get a cover, and FTR win the match. Then after that, MJF comes back and tries to put over FTR, but Dax Harwood is pissed off at MJF, saying like, "Bro, why the hell? Like, are you doing this to Wardlow? Literally, he's our fucking friend and shit." Like, he's pissed off. And we get a bunch of FTR chants. So again, this is signing to a a FTR babyface turn, which is most likely going to happen. And FTR is getting over by the crowd. Like, the crowd is, you hear those FTR chants after that, but then MJF tries to be the douchebag he is. Well, not really being the douchebag, but he's a lying scumbag. And MJF raises the hands of FTR, but you know for a fact MJF is like, fuck, I can't believe I'm put in this position. But yeah, overall, this was a great match. Kind of a weird match, mainly because of the fact that FTR was really getting murdered by the Gun Club, of all people, the Gun Club. But yeah, overall, this was a good match, and FTR it was the right choice to make. But yeah, let's shift gears, kind of like what Michael Cole says every week on SmackDown. Shout out to Michael Cole. We get a Jericho Appreciation Society backstage segment, and they talk about Santana and Ortiz and Eddie Kingston, and they talk about how they took him out and all that shit. And of course, the Jericho Appreciation Society are all a bunch of sports entertainers, and you guys all know that sports entertainment is absolutely amazing. But they say that they're not there, and they basically, of course, talk about how they took them out. Lee opens the curtain on the side and says that there's absolutely nothing. And then Hager opens the curtain, and what happens when he opens the curtain? It's Santana and Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. So they basically pulled what the Inner Circle did in the locker room of the Pinnacle last year. If you guys don't remember that fantastic fighting segment with the whole Pinnacle and the Inner Circle, in which MJF opened the door of the bathroom and literally Chris Jericho and the entire Inner Circle were there, and they beat the shit out of the Pinnacle. It was something similar to that. But what happens? A brawl breaks loose, and they're headed all the way to the ring. And then Kingston and Jericho are in the ring. Kingston then goes for a spinning back fist on Jericho, and then he takes Garcia. Santana hits the running boot on Garcia. Jericho is in the center of the ring. Kingston is on the outside, taking Garcia to the chair. Then after that, they want to hit the street sweeper, but Hager interferes. And then Hager drives Ortiz into the corner, and then he drops Kingston to the mat. And then at this point, the heels gain the advantage. Then Parker goes for a swinging neck breaker, and then Garcia applies the sharpshooter on Kingston, and Jericho repeatedly hits him with the baseball bat. So Jericho, being the sports entertainer he is hitting Eddie Kingston with the frickin' baseball bat, or I should say Floyd. Then at this point, the sharpshooter is applied, and then Hager and Garcia hold on to Kingston, and Jericho hits Kingston repeatedly with the belt. And then he hits the Judas effect, and the Jericho Appreciation Society stand tall in the center of the ring. Overall thoughts on this match? I absolutely enjoyed this match. This match was awesome. Well, it's not even a match. What the fuck am I talking about? This was not a match. I absolutely enjoyed the brawl. This brawl was absolutely insane. Of course, you know, I felt like this was kind of a nod to what the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle did last year. But overall, where does this lead to? Now, a lot of people are saying it's probably, you know, there can be many different scenarios in which this can go to. Some people are saying blood and guts, which I do not think that's going to be the case. I think blood and guts, that honor is going to be with the Elite versus the Undisputed Elite. But they can do LAX versus the Jericho Appreciation Society. I mean, like, there's a lot of possibilities that you can do when it comes to this whole feud. But I'm not going to lie, I'm absolutely digging what Chris Jericho is doing with this whole Jericho Appreciation Society faction, mainly because of the fact that, of course, they're calling them sports entertainment. And, of course, knowing the AEW audience, what's the number one term that they absolutely hate? Sports entertainment. So, you know, the fact that, you know, some people are complaining that they're using sport. I do believe that there's some people, especially those e-drones, complaining that they're using sports entertainment, and they're saying that WWE lives rent-free in AEW's. And I'm like, bro, shut the fuck up. These are the same people that do not even know what this whole thing means. So first off, sports entertainment, the reason why they're using the whole sports entertainment term is to get heel heat, because they know their audience. AEW knows their audience, and of course, the one thing that the AEW audience does not like is the term sports entertainment. But overall, this is a great brawl. I absolutely enjoyed it, and I'm absolutely really excited to see where this leads to in the near future. We get a backstage interview with Jade Cargill and talks about her next opponent. Mark says that her next opponent is Leva Bates. At this point, Jade is pissed off and says that the second opponent is Marina Shafir, which I believe she's been wrestling on Dark. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do not watch Dark or Dark Elevation, mainly because of the fact that it's just way too much wrestling right now. But yeah, after that, we got the match of the night, that being Bryan Danielson from the Blackpool Combat Club taking on Wheeler Yuta. Overall, this was a fantastic match, and bro, the crowd was absolutely behind Wheeler Yuta in this match. Like Wheeler Yuta was absolutely over with the crowd, and you can definitely see it when you watch. I'm gonna rewatch the match, man. The match was absolutely intense. There was a lot of stiff shots happening when it comes to Bryan Danielson and Wheeler Yuta. Like both murdered each other, and that finish in which Bryan Danielson was gonna like kick his head in, but then Wheeler Yuta spit him in the face, and then that led to Bryan Danielson just kicking him repeatedly over and over again in the head. Holy shit. But I'll talk about that later on because I actually kind of botched that on Twitter. I was like, oh yeah, Danielson was the one that spit on Wheeler Yuta. And I'm like, bro, I'm a dumbass. No, it was Yuta the one. Yuta was the one that spit Danielson. But William Regal is on commentary. And it's always great to hear William Regal on commentary, mainly because of the fact that he just knows what he's talking about. Not only that, like William Regal is such a great mind that like the way like he talks about Bryan Danielson and the way he talks about Wheeler Yuta and the way he talks about how these moves are escalating and how like they apply these moves, it's really interesting, and I really enjoy what William Regal is talking about here on commentary. But the match starts. We're gonna be going through the match because there's a lot of shit to talk about on this match. Bryan works on Yuta. We get a right shot by Danielson into the midsection. Both lock up. Danielson goes for a suplex. He works on the wrists of Yuta. We get a cover by Danielson multiple times. Danielson goes for a bridge. Danielson then transitions into a submission, but Wheeler escapes. We get a slap to the face by Danielson. Then Danielson goes for a shoulder tackle. We get a couple of kicks by Danielson into the corner. Then Danielson runs into a drop kick by Wheeler Yuta. We get repeated elbow strikes by Wheeler Yuta. Both exchange shots to the face. Danielson then bridges on Wheeler Yuta. Yuta then reverses that bridge attempt. Then Danielson makes it to the rope. Yuta then goes to the top and drops into a kick by Danielson. We go to commercial break at this point. Danielson is all in control during the commercial break. Once we're back from break, we get a couple of chops by Danielson on Wheeler Yuta. Yuta then fires back with a couple of chops of his own. Then both exchange chops, and when I mean they exchange chops, they legit exchange chops. Like they went crazy with those chops, I might add. But after exchanging chops, we get a backslide pin attempt by Yuta. We get a rolling elbow by Danielson. We get a rolling elbow again, but Yuta counters into a German suplex. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a waist lock by Wheeler Yuta. We get a kick to the back of Yuta by Danielson. Then Danielson goes for the dragon suplex after that. Then we get a cover by Danielson and a near fall. Danielson goes for elbow strikes to the chest of Yuta. And bro, his chest was absolutely red, man. You could tell. You could look at those scars on Yuta. Holy shit. We get an underhook by Danielson. Yuta then fires back with a couple of elbows of his own. We get a roll up by Wheeler Yuta, and we get a near fall. Danielson then counters with an arm drag. We get the Buseigo knee, the running knee by Bryan Danielson. And then after that, Bryan Danielson is about to kick Wheeler Yuta's head in. And what the hell happens? Yuta spits in the face of Bryan Danielson. He spit to the face of Bryan Danielson. And then that pissed off Danielson so much, you're like, oh, wait. You spit me in the face, I'm going to kick you as hard as I can. So he literally kicked the shit out of Wheeler Yuta. And then, he kicks his head in. And then after that, he hits the Gotch-style pile driver on Wheeler Yuta. And then he applies the label lock, a.k.a. the yes lock. Yuta fades. Bryan Danielson wins the match. Overall, this was by far the best match of the entire night. I absolutely loved what I saw in this match. This match, even though Wheeler Yuta lost, this match made Wheeler Yuta. I don't care what anybody says. And Wheeler Yuta has always been great. But, I mean, again, I feel like this match is going to be the centerpiece of literally for good things to come with Wheeler Yuta. The reason why I say that is because Wheeler Yuta literally has potential. Not only that, and I feel like all signs are pointing towards him joining the group, most likely. And it makes perfect sense for a guy like Wheeler Yuta to join the group, mainly because of the fact that the guy's just so talented. And after this showing with Bryan Danielson, the crowd just absolutely just loved what Wheeler Yuta did in the ring, and this put Wheeler Yuta over like times 100. Like everybody loved Wheeler Yuta during this match, man. Wheeler Yuta was absolutely great. Again, just because a wrestler loses a match doesn't mean they're immediately buried. Again, if a wrestler loses but he loses looking strong, that's all that matters. And that is what Yuta did right here. Like Yuta lost, but he still looked strong. And and not only that, William Regal put him over on commentary as well. This was a fantastic match and by far the best match of the entire night. All right. The Undisputed Elite have a championship celebration. Yes, wait, championship celebration? Wait, they didn't win the championships yet. Well, that is because Adam Cole stole the World Championship last week on Dynamite, and also Adam Cole stole the World Tag Team Championships on Rampage to basically give to Red Dragon. And yeah, they're currently the quote-unquote champions of AEW, even though they're not. But overall, what are my thoughts on this segment? This was a great segment, and I love the fact that they're called the Undisputed Elite. A lot of people were debating whether the team was called either the Paragon or the Undisputed Elite. I feel like the Undisputed Elite makes a little more sense. Even though I love the Paragon name, I think it makes perfect sense for them to call them the Undisputed Elite. Of course, AEW does not own the rights to the Undisputed Era. That is WWE, but I love the fact that they utilize the word Undisputed because that is what a lot of people know Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish as the Undisputed Era, so they called them the Undisputed Elite. And it'd be awesome for them to have a blood and guts match between the Elite and the Undisputed Elite. I think that'd be an awesome ass match in my opinion. But all the belts have the nameplates taped up saying the respective wrestler's name. Cole welcomes everybody to the championship celebration, and he makes it clear that Hangman Page and Jurassic Express are not here tonight. Wink, wink. Now, why? Now, they're not here because, not because they weren't invited, but they're ashamed and embarrassed that they took their titles, and says that a lot of people are saying that, they stole them, but you can't steal something that's yours. That was an awesome ass line by Adam Cole. And says that AEW needs a new era, a new crew to run the show. And AEW has the 3 best wrestlers in the world. Then O'Reilly, he grabs the microphone and says that he sees a lot of haters, and what is he going to say to those haters? And then O'Reilly completely forgot what he said, and then Bobby Fish tells O'Reilly to just sit down, and he had a lot of champagne. So after that, Fish then says that his reputation precedes him, and says what we're looking at are the 3 baddest dudes that this company has to offer, bar none. Then Cole says that is exactly why the celebration will last long. Hangman Page then comes out. Yes, Adam Cole stated that Hangman Page wasn't here, but no, lo and behold, Hangman Page comes out in a car with horns on the front. Then he fights off the Undisputed Elite. He sends O'Reilly to the outside, and then he catches Cole and hits a fallaway slam. He sets up the buckshot lariat, but then Cole escapes with the help of Red Dragon. But what happens after that? Jurassic Express walk out from behind Red Dragon, who are on the stage, or I should say on the ramp, and then they take out Red Dragon, and then Christian Cage sends Cole back in the ring, and then he misses the buckshot lariat, but then Cole gets taken to the outside. Overall thoughts on this? I absolutely enjoyed what I saw right here. This is a great segment, and I have to say, man, those championships look so good on Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and Adam Cole, man. Bro, those guys are going to be real champions in the near future, guaranteed, 100%. But yeah, man, where does this lead to? So, of course, I stated earlier that CM Punk is eyeing towards the World Championship, and I feel like the match that most likely it's going to happen is going to be CM Punk versus Hangman Page at Double or Nothing, because Double or Nothing is going to be happening late May, so most likely the match is going to be CM Punk versus Hangman Page at the T-Mobile Arena in the main event. But I do see Adam Cole versus Hangman Page on a special episode of Dynamite. I see that being the case, and then after that, where does Adam Cole go? I mean, we do not know when Kenny Omega is coming back, so really, we'll have to wait and see, because, I always stated once Kenny Omega comes back, shit is going to get real, and Adam Cole is going to have a year-long feud with Kenny Omega. I mean, it makes perfect sense in my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see. Most likely, Adam Cole and Hangman Page are going to be wrestling on a special episode of Dynamite, and Hangman Page is going to go for the win. That is just what I see happening, being the case. All right. Tony Schiavone interviews Thunder Rosa. Of course, he tried to interview Thunder Rosa, but then Vicky Guerrero came in a god-awful segment, I will say, and says that it was a shame that her celebration was cut short. Of course, she is the first Mexican-born wrestler to win the women's championship, and says that when she came to AEW, she said that she will put women's wrestling back on the map. And then Thunder Rosa wants to be the face of all women's wrestling, and every time she gets to the top, there are always bullies that want to take her down. She will be a foundation of this company, and whoever wants to get her can come and get her. And she tells Nyla Rose that she's here to fight, but she will wrestle the best in the world. Overall thoughts on this promo that Thunder Rosa cut. I absolutely enjoyed it. My only gripe with this promo was the fact that, she should have stated like the majority of this whole promo last week on Dynamite, in my opinion. I just felt like the fact that, Vicky Guerrero just came out of nowhere before Thunder Rosa even cut a promo last week was absolutely dumb. Not only that, I mean, I understand that the rankings, Nyla Rose is the top of the rankings, but at the same time, I mean, like, really, Nyla Rose is Thunder Rosa's first opponent. And this is nothing personal against Nyla Rose. I just think that to me, there's not really as much interest in Nyla Rose as I once had a couple of years ago, in my opinion. And I just feel like, Hikaru Shida, I believe her first title defense was against Nyla Rose. And then Britt Baker's first title defense was against Nyla Rose. Now Thunder Rosa's first title defense is going to be against Nyla Rose. Is this going to be a common cycle in which the new AEW Women's Champion, every single new AEW Women's Champion is going to face Nyla Rose in their first title defense? I mean, it's getting repetitive at this point. And I just think that, right now, I would have chosen somebody like a Serena Deeb. In my view, I think Serena Deeb would be a better opponent. Of course, you got to pay attention to the rankings, and that's why Nyla Rose is challenging Thunder Rosa for the Women's Championship. It's because of the rankings. But again, I genuinely believe that Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa will have a fantastic feud in the near future. Hopefully that will be the case, because I feel like right now they're building up Serena Deeb. Of course, she's a jobber squasher right now, as I stated earlier in my previous Dynamite reviews. But again, I feel like Serena Deeb has potential, in my opinion. Of course, Serena Deeb is a veteran in this game, but still, I think that she can have a fantastic feud, in my opinion, against Thunder Rosa. All right. FTR is backstage, and they talk about making history as the AAA Tag Team Champions, but also talking about wanting to win the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships this Friday, that being tomorrow night on Ring of Honor's Supercard of Honor. And then Dax Harwood says that he loves pro wrestling, and then that he will issue a challenge to Matt Jackson, the Young Bucks. So we're going to be getting FTR versus the Young Bucks not next week, but hopefully down the road. Definitely, I do see that match happening on a pay-per-view or maybe on a special episode of Dynamite. Bro, their match at Full Gear back in 2020 was absolutely insane. Of course, that was the show where the Young Bucks won the World Tag Team Championships. But yeah, man, they're gonna have a fantastic match. And honestly, the FTR and the Young Bucks have fantastic chemistry in the ring. And, the fact that they challenge the Young Bucks again, the roles are going to be reversed. The Young Bucks are going to be the heels, and Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, FTR, are going to be the baby faces. And overall, I'm all in for that. Pun intended. Or no pun intended, I should say. All right. The Bunny in a qualifying match in the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. So, who is the mystery opponent that the Bunny faced? The mystery opponent is Toni Storm. Yes, Toni Storm is All Elite. Of course, she is signed with AEW. Of course, she left the WWE, and the WWE treated Toni Storm like an absolute joke. What are my thoughts on Toni Storm being All Elite overall? I think this is a logical, great signing, in my opinion. I think this signing is absolutely fantastic. I wasn't really that familiar with Toni Storm when she was in NXT. I believe she was one of the longest reigning NXT not women's champions, the NXT UK women's champion. She made a name for herself there, but I do not follow NXT UK, to be quite honest with you. But she definitely made a name for herself in NXT. But overall, when she came up, she came up to the main roster. I believe she came up to the main roster after the draft. And then they announced that she was going to be they aired video packages for her, but she didn't show up. And then she made her debut a couple of months later, and then she was treated like a complete joke. I believe she was feuding with Charlotte, and they had Charlotte put pie in her face, which was really dumb in my opinion. They basically treated Toni Storm like a complete joke in my opinion. And of course, she left the WWE. I believe she just wanted to leave, she just bailed out and stuff like that. I believe that was the case. And right, good for her, mainly because of the fact that she's the type of wrestler that she knows the potential that she has, and she doesn't want to be treated like shit in the WWE, and which I totally respect. But overall, my thoughts on Toni Storm being All Elite. Overall, I think this is a fantastic signing, in my opinion, for AEW, and I think this is going to elevate the women's division in the near future. And all the match possibilities that we're probably going to have, we got Toni Storm versus Thunder Rosa, Toni Storm versus Serena Deeb, Toni Storm versus Britt Baker, Toni Storm versus Layla Hirsch. I mean, bro, I would love to see a match with Layla Hirsch and Toni Storm. The possibilities are endless, but of course we had the Bunny taking on Toni Storm in a qualifying match in the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. The match starts. We get an elbow strike by Storm. We get a snap suplex by Storm. We get a couple of uppercuts by Storm. We get a couple of chops by the Bunny. We get a side headlock by Storm. We get a drop kick by Storm. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a knee strike by Storm. The Bunny then lands on to, I believe it was the apron, and then hits a knee on Storm. At this point, Storm is on the outside. We get a running lariat by the Bunny. Once we go to commercial break and we're back from commercial break, we both exchange shots. We get a lariat by Toni Storm. We get a boot by Storm. Then Storm hits a fisherman suplex. We get a cover end and near fall. Then Bunny hits a driver end and near fall. She goes for the cover end and near fall, I should say. We get a waist lock by Storm, and then we get a couple of thrust kicks by the Bunny. We get a cover end and near fall. We get a German suplex by Storm, and then she hits a pile driver, and we get a cover, and Toni Storm advances and wins the match. Overall thoughts on this match? I enjoyed the match for what it was. Was it the best match? No, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Of course, Toni Storm is now all elite, and I'm absolutely really happy for Toni Storm. I think she's going to be a success in AEW, in my opinion. I think she's going to have a lot of success in the women's division. She's going to have tremendous matches with a lot of great talent in that women's division. Honestly, I do believe that right now AEW is gearing itself to become like the best women's division in all of women's wrestling. I genuinely believe that, mainly because of the fact that, all the matches that we're going to be getting. Granted, the women's division still has a little bit of issues left, but if you compare the AEW women's division now compared to what it was in the beginning of AEW, oh my God, the women's division absolutely improved drastically. And that is saying something, because I remember in the beginning of AEW, the women's division was not good whatsoever. But yeah, after that, Tony Schiavone interviews Nyla Rose, and then Nyla Rose just calls her a bitch. I didn't even write what she said in the promo, to be quite honest with you. Again, I'm just not really in tune with Nyla Rose being the first opponent for Thunder Rosa. In my opinion, I feel like we could have chosen a better opponent. And that is nothing personal against Nyla Rose, by the way. I think Nyla Rose is great. I just feel like, to me, I'm just kind of through with Nyla Rose nowadays. But we got Darby Allin versus Andrade El Idolo in the main event, which overall, this was a great match. I absolutely enjoyed what I saw in this match. Darby Allin was getting a beating, and I mean a legit beating. And of course, Andrade El Idolo was the one that went over in the match. Before the match even start, Andrade hit a freaking tornado on the outside. Then he sends Darby to the timekeeper's area. He throws Darby to the top of the timekeeper's table. He picks up Darby again and throws him to the apron. Andrade then runs to the steel steps, and then Darby hits the skateboard on Andrade, and then he stomps it on Andrade, and then Darby gets caught by Andrade, but lands on his feet. We got a right hand by Darby, and then Andrade picks up Darby and throws him to the top of the steel steps. At this point, both are in the ring, and Darby's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm still going to fight. And then the bell rings. So Andrade throws Darby to the top of the turnbuckle, and then he throws Darby again to the other turnbuckle. We got a couple of double knees by Darby. Then Andrade at this point hits a backdrop. Once we're back from commercial break, Darby escapes a backdrop attempt, and then Darby out of nowhere hits a fantastic Code Red, a.k.a. a Canadian Destroyer, which by far is still the greatest finishing move in the history of professional wrestling. Then we get a cover engineer fall. We get a boot by Darby, and then we get a boot by Andrade. We get a couple of stomps to the head of Darby. Then both slaps. They both go for a slap exchange, and they both slap each other like crazy. Then Darby gets knocked out via a intense ass slap by Andrade. Both were exchanging slaps, but then Andrade just slapped the shit out of Darby and then knocked him out. Then Andrade takes off his belt, but the referee takes it away. But then Darby trips Andrade into the corner. We get a stunner by Darby Allin. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a backbreaker by Andrade into the corner. Then Andrade takes Darby to the top. Andrade then picks up Darby, but then Darby fights back. And then Darby hits a crucifix bomb and applies an armbar. Then after that, Jose tries to come in and interfere, but then Sting takes him out. And then Butcher and Blade come in, but then Darby Allin goes to the top and hits a crossbody on the outside. Andrade then catches Darby with a springboard coffin splash, and then buckle bombs him. And then Andrade hits the El Idolo. At this point, a brawl breaks loose. Well, he hits the El Idolo, and Andrade wins the match. So after that, Andrade goes over. We get a 6-on-2 attack, so the heels are gaining the advantage. But then the Hardys come out for the save. Jeff Hardy then goes to the top, and then he hits a swanton bomb. And I mean, he hits a beautiful swanton bomb in the end. And after that, the show ends, and the baby faces stand tall. Overall, my thoughts on this match, I absolutely enjoyed what I saw. It was a great match in my opinion. I absolutely enjoyed it. Darby Allin, again, he took a freaking beating by Andrade, and that portion when they were like slapping the hell out of each other, I mean, like, holy shit, that was intense. But yeah, I thought Darby Allin versus Andrade was a fantastic match. I thought it was a great main event, and overall, I thought Dynamite was a great show. I thought Dynamite had some fantastic wrestling on the show. Honestly, to be quite honest with you, like, you know, Wheeler Yuta versus Bryan Danielson was by far the best match of the entire night, in my opinion. But yeah, man, Dynamite overall was a fantastic show. I absolutely enjoyed what I watched on the show. We had a lot of great things happening. Of course, CM Punk is targeting the World Championship. Toni Storm is officially all elite. We had some fantastic wrestling on the show, which I have already explained like 10 million times on this review already. But again, Dynamite, in my opinion, was a great show, and, you know, it's going to get better. Of course, we got WrestleMania weekend happening. You know, WrestleMania is going to be this Saturday and Sunday. We got Ring of Honor's Supercard of Honor. I will be coming to you guys tomorrow with my WrestleMania predictions video. Of course, after that, we got the WrestleMania Night 1 review, and then we got the Night 2 review. We got the Raw after WrestleMania. We got a lot of shit to watch. I got a lot of shit to watch. I got, you know, SmackDown and Rampage to cover. Also, my predictions and the WrestleMania review. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But overall, I thought this week's Dynamite was great. And yeah, this was Broken Havoc. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos in the near future. If you guys want to listen to the podcast in audio format, it's available on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and iTunes Podcasts. And yeah, this is Broken Havoc from the Broken Havoc Podcast, signing out.